We'll call the meeting to order at 6:03. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the informational meeting for the bond vote, which will be on March 2nd. The purpose of it is to seek approval to upgrade the wastewater plant and some limited work on the collection lines. With that said, any of the board members have any other comments? We'll turn to Wayne Aldrich.
Mike, there's something on the screen that needs to be taken off.
I can't see it on my screen, that's a problem.
Yeah, it's on the TV screen.
I think if you have an escape button, it might work.
Nope, nope. Oh, you just shut it down.
Well, keep going, I'll get it back on. Wayne, can you see what can you see right now?
I can see the presentation, Mike. It's the first slide.
Okay.
Okay, Wayne, you are up to explain the technicalities of and the need for upgrading the wastewater plant.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jim. So I'm Wayne Elliott from Aldrich and Elliott. We're the engineers on the project. I've also got Jeff Lewis from my office here with me. Again, as Jim mentioned, we're here for the project is the wastewater treatment facility upgrade, and this is the required bond vote information meeting prior to the vote on March 2nd. Next slide, Mike.
Hold on, Wayne, I'm sorry, I had to
Yep.
step away for a second. Can you see that?
If it's a bit trouble for you, I can try to take over the control of the presentation if it's a lot over there.
I think at this point, your feed for this monitor over here may need to be adjusted to HDMI 1.
Yeah, it is. That's what I was trying to do before. Going back over there.
Here you go. Nice.
Okay, so they're seeing the slide number 2 right now.
Yeah, we're still seeing number 1, Mike.
Oh, I don't know. This is screen's paused.
Well, we were just looking at one, at the opening screen, Mike, a minute ago.
I just gotta share my screen. Again.
Here we go. That's one.
Okay, they're looking at slide 1 right now. I think
Okay.
Jeff's got it.
Go to 2 then, please. Okay.
I have the presentation. You guys can stop trying to manipulate it. It's on my screen.
So Jeff's controlling it. Is that okay, Mike?
It's fine.
Okay. So let's just give you a little bit of idea. All the project work is at the existing wastewater treatment facility site. The location map on the left there, you can see Castleton Corners there at the intersection of Vermont Route 30 and 4A. But basically, if you head south on 30 towards Polteny, you've got the Hazlitt on the right-hand side, and you'll cross the bridge and over the railroad tracks, and right on the right-hand side there, you'll see the existing treatment plant site right next to the Castleton River. And then up to the right here, this is a closer-in view of the wastewater treatment plant site. You know, you can see Route 30 to the right there, the railroad tracks to the north. We'll talk in more detail about the work here, but the left kind of circular dome there is the sludge storage tank. The larger kind of building, orange building roof in the middle is where the majority of the treatment happens. And then you can see to the right of that is the control building. North of that is the headworks, and then to the right is just the garage. Next slide. So just a reminder on the bond vote, in-person voting is available. The Public Safety Building located on 273 Route 30N on Tuesday, March 2nd, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Absentee early voting is also available and highly encouraged. Ballots were available as of February 11th, 2021 from the town clerk. And just a reminder, if you did request a ballot, those do have to be returned by the close of polls on March 2nd. So just to give you an idea, this is to the right here, you can see a site plan of the treatment plant. We'll get into a little bit more detail here with the elements that are included in the upgrade project. The plant is designed for a permitted flow capacity of 480,000 gallons per day. That's more than adequate to meet the needs of the town moving forward. So the project really focuses on the age-related needs, as you'll see. The town's only using about 65% of the flow capacity, so that's perfectly fine. So again, the work is really the focus here is to really extend the useful life and reliability of the facility moving forward. Majority of the work is going to be happening at the headwork screen, which is a small structure there. That's where the influent flow comes into the facility from the collection system under the tracks, and then the sequential batch reactors, which are the 2 squirt tanks. That's where the majority of the treatment happens with the biological and clarification, and then the control building renovation, and then some additional work on the control monitoring and data systems. So a little background on the plant here. In the sewer collection system in general, the plant was originally built in 1970 as an extended aeration facility. The last major project was completed in 1998, and that included the upgrade of the treatment process to a sequential batch reactor. It was one of the first ones in the state at that time. That also included the new ultraviolet disinfection system. And one of the things that was done with that at the time was the permitted capacity was also increased as part of that upgrade project. Then in 2007, some portion of the control system was replaced. And starting next around 2016, the town wanted to be proactive. They knew the plant was approaching 20 years of age. So they initiated a 10-year planning study for the sewer system, pump stations, and wastewater treatment facility. And the objective of that was to really identify the short and long-term kind of needs and priorities moving forward. One of the items that was identified out of that was the condition of the gravity sewer line from Castleton Corners down towards the treatment plant. The condition of that was a major concern. So the replacement of that sewer line was completed in 2018, and that was a separate bond vote that was done prior to that. Then in 2020, to qualify for the state planning funds and other funding moving forward, the town went through a qualifications-based selection process for engineers, which again is required by the state, and started the preliminary engineering study. And that's really the basis for looking at the needs again, also looking at alternatives, selecting an alternative, developing a proposed project with cost, timeline, funding, impacts to sewer rates and everything else. So a lot of this, as I mentioned, is really age-related. You can see to the right, this is the headwork structure and the kind of the round cylinder with a green top. That's a critical piece of equipment because this is where the sewage, the raw wastewater, comes into the plant. And what this does is it pulls the organic material out of the flow stream, like the plastics, for example. Having a screen is required for sequential batch reactor process. So if this wasn't working or operable, it can create some kind of process operation issues. And basically the unit, these items are all, approaching 23 years old plus, and the town's got great use of it, but it's really exceeded the useful life of it. it doesn't make any sense to kind of keep putting money into a piece of equipment that's really, done its purpose and has worked well, but it's really time due for replacement. The sequential batch reactors are really kind of the heart of the treatment system. You can see the picture of a decanter to the right there. That's a very important piece of equipment because that's what removes the treated effluent before discharge to the river. This is really where the wastewater is treated. It provides the biological treatment. And then after that, it's the settling to get the solids out of it. That all happens within a single tank. As part of this, the aeration monitoring is original. There's better, more efficient technologies that are out there, and again, that are more reliable. Replacement of this equipment is anticipated to reduce energy usage and also improve process control for the operations. And then the unit to the right, the decanters, again, are a critical piece of equipment, so we want to upgrade those again to make sure they're reliable and good working order moving forward. This is the last piece of kind of treatment that happens before discharge to the river. This is where the disinfection part of the process happens. In the older days, this was liquid, but this unit was put in back with the last upgrade in 1998. UV disinfection is favorable because it doesn't have some of the negative impacts on the receiving waters. This equipment, for the open channel for this wastewater plant, was some of the earlier vintages of these systems. It's worked well, it's served the town well. But one of the bigger issues is that the manufacturer doesn't make this model of piece of equipment anymore. So getting parts and replacement parts and all that as needed moving forward is going to be a challenge. And again, this is a critical piece of equipment, and there's newer systems that are also out there that are much more efficient from an operating standpoint. They lose electricity and also have automated cleaning systems. This is just a table from the preliminary engineering report that we've kind of inserted here just to give you a view. This is really, we go through each kind of critical major piece of equipment, tanks, buildings, other components, at the treatment plant site. And then what we do is, we look at the age, we look to see if there's been any work, see what the kind of the track record reliability is. And then what we try to do beyond that is we try to pick what the needs are over the next few years. And by that, anything really that's urgently critical, would be less than 2 years. In this case, as I mentioned, the ultraviolet system is important because that's a key piece of the treatment process. If that failed, that would really lead to violations and could subject the town to fines from the state. And again, the concern about getting, repair replacement parts moving forward. In the next category that's of concern would be anything in that 2 to 5 year window. And then beyond that, we'll look at the 6 to 10 year window. As part of this project, working closely with the town here, what we're really trying to do is address the majority of these items that are within that less than 2 years and that 2 to 5 year window. One of the items that was initially included was the enclosure structure, which is, shown up here in year 6 to 10. That was removed from the project again, just because of some of the concerns about costs and impacts to the sewer rates. And but part of that decision was that, it wasn't figured that was a critical need or item that really needed to be done over the next few years. So the proposed project at the headworks, we're going to install a brand new screening unit to replace the grinder screen. Again, age-related. It's a sequential batch reactors. New positive displacement blowers that will be more efficient and energy efficient. We're going to put a new air distribution system in the bottom, the SBR tanks, again, that will be more efficient, to further reduce electrical usage. Replace the level monitoring and dissolved oxygen control systems, and then refurbish, upgrade the decanter components. On the ultraviolet disinfection, that equipment's going to be completely replaced with a new system. And again, that's going to be less balls, more energy efficient, and also will have a automated cleaning system that will be easier for the operations staff.
one great thing about all these alternatives is that they all can be installed in the existing tankage. There's no new proposed structures as part of this project. The headworks will go in the existing channel. All the SBR work, the sequential batch reactor work will be in the existing tanks, and the UV or ultraviolet disinfection system will also be in the existing ultraviolet channel, which is a great service for the town to get to.
So we're gonna repurpose, reuse all the existing structures, and there really isn't any real exterior excavation or work that's required as part of the upgrades. And then the last one is, again, some more of the age-related stuff. These items are really located in the control building. Down to the right, you can see the processed water system. That's important because basically what they do is they reuse the treated effluent from the treatment process for, the majority of what they can for the non-potable water needs in the facility. We're going to upgrade the ventilation system and the sequential batch reactor enclosure. New control data system, for the operators, which is all computer PC based, and that's really where they monitor what's going on and also have some control flexibility. And then beyond that, in the chemical storage area, tank replacement and feed pumps. Again, all of these are just age-related things that are at or approaching beyond their useful life here. This is the site plan. We've already kind of gone over some of these items, but you can see, again, we'll start to the up at the headwork structure. That's where the influence screen is being replaced. Then the flow continues into this sequential batch reactor tanks. So that's where we're going to have the new aeration system, new aeration blowers, new monitoring instrumentation devices, and upgrade the decanters. And then the flow goes down to the ultraviolet disinfection system, which will be replaced. And then from there, it's discharged to the directly to the Castleton River. And then beyond that, again, the aeration SBR blowers replaced, chemical storage tanks, feed pumps, and then the work in the control building with the programmable logic controls, electrical, and process water system. So this shows a summary of the estimated construction costs. We break this out by components, and we extend this out to the start of construction, which would be next spring in 2022. So you can see the approximate cost of the work at each of the components, the headworks, the biological treatment. The majority of that is related to the sequential batch reactors. The ultraviolet disinfection is $472,000. The balance of that is the age-related refurbishments. So we're looking at a construction cost of $1,875,000. Then what we do is we extend that to come up with a total project cost, and this ultimately becomes the recommended bond amount. And even though the town's going to receive a subsidy from the state on that, they still recommend and require that you vote on the total amount. And we'll talk a little bit about the funding sources here on the next couple slides. But within the total project costs, we have the construction, again, extended out to the start of construction for next spring. The state requires that we assume or carry a 10% construction contingency. It includes engineering for contract documents, permitting, all the way through bid and construction phase. Then we have other costs, administration, permit fees, legal, short-term interest. So that gets us to the total project cost of $2.5 million, which is also the recommended bond amount of $2.5 million. So the available funding sources, because of the timeline, the schedule is on here, primarily looking at the state of Vermont Clean Water SRF revolving loan program. That's really the most favorable funding opportunity. And that's one of the drivers here for kind of moving us forward on this timeline is as of July 1st of last year, the state is offering 40% subsidy on these types of projects available for construction. If the town doesn't pass the bond vote at this time, we don't know if that's going to be there in that kind of same form, beginning July 1st of this year. The project is on the state priority list. The loan is an administrative fee. They've waived the interest rate, so it's really the same as managed the same as an interest rate. It's at 2%. The term of the loan is 20 years. And because the town went through the qualifications-based selection process and all the engineering fees, they qualify for the 50% subsidy. One thing that we have not factored in here to any of the financing and pieces you'll see later is the town is also eligible for a 10% pollution control grant. That's not guaranteed. It would be for about $250,000. That has to be appropriated by the legislature. So that's another possibility, but we've tried to be transparent. We haven't factored that in our projected cost, but if the town gets that, that's obviously going to be a significant reduction in the, the loan amount, loan payment, and further reduce the impact to the sewer customers. One other thing to add here too, the way the state program is set up is the payment on the loan starts 1 year after substantial completion. So the first payment wouldn't be due until the end of about 2023. So this is the projected funding scenario. The town's looking at a subsidy of about $1 million. So that comes out of the total project cost, and that doesn't have to be repaid. If that state pollution control grant does become available, that would be another, $250,000 that would be available for the into the project costs. Loan terms 2%, 20 years. For the engineering subsidy, the estimate is about $86,700. The 40% construction contingency subsidy, is about $930. We're estimating a loan amount of about $1,482,660. The town gets that state pollution control grant. That $250,000 would come out of that. The annual loan payment is estimated at $90,700. So the projected increase in the sewer rates per quarter is about $3. And the key thing here with the annual loan payment, the entire town votes on the project. However, the loan and the repayment is on the sewer customers only. This is a tentative project schedule. If the bond vote, passes, that's on March 2nd. We would jump right into April of beginning final design, completing all the contract documents and permitting by January of 2022, get it out to bid at a very favorable time in the spring of next year, start construction about April, and then completion in December of 2022. Okay. So bond vote next Tuesday, March 2nd, in person, and then the absentee early voting is encouraged. I'll turn that back over to Jim and see if anybody has any questions.
Okay, questions from the board for Wayne? Joe has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I have two questions, Wayne. One is, what are the worst-case scenarios if we don't make these repairs? And secondly, how confident can we be that these subsidies will be available in a future year if we don't pass this bond on March 2nd?
Yeah, so, the big thing, I guess the answer to the first question is, a lot of these items are now, 23 years old. Sometimes if they're well maintained, you can get, a couple more years, sometimes a little bit more, but at some point, you're going to have to start having some failures, and whether that's with the ultraviolet disinfection system, or that, for example, the screen and the headworks or a blower. Some of those items are obviously more critical because they're really directly related to compliance with a permit. So if you have a blower fail, you have redundant units, you can fix something like that. But for example, if the ultraviolet disinfection system failed, you would potentially be out of compliance with your permit, and ultimately that could be subject to fines. So there's kind of different degrees of risk, I would say. depending what the equipment is and what the criticality is on that, how it's directly related to compliance with your discharge permit requirements. The subsidies are there now for the engineering for the 50% and the 40% for the construction. We don't know. It's too early. We don't know if those are going to be carried forward in the next year. We're being told probably not. So that's why some have chosen, even with the situation everybody's in at the moment, to try to move these projects forward because, that 40% wasn't available last year and it very well may not be available moving forward. So, these projects are you're looking at the long term to really get this facility out, for the next 20 plus years from a reliability standpoint. So the funding packages right now are extremely attractive.
Thank you.
Other questions from the board? Bob?
Yeah, Wayne, as the more users come on board, the sewer rate goes down. Is that a fair statement to make?
Well, it depends. As your costs are going to go up a little bit every year with, chemicals and electricity and labor and benefits and those kind of things. But yeah, in theory, if, you're in the business of providing, wastewater treatment and sewer service. So if you can bring in new customers, that actually helps, distribute the debt retirement and operating costs, through a larger customer base. But, it depends if you're going to pick up 2 or 3, but all of a sudden, if you're going to pick up, 20 or 25, then that absolutely helps the, financial situation here.
Okay. Do the upgrades help with more capacity?
No, they don't. You have, 480,000 gallons per day, and that's really been sufficient. We look at that at the beginning because we want to make sure that, we don't go through the age-related items here and then find out, you're going to need additional permitted flow capacity in the future. So that's adequate. It's meeting the town needs. There's a little bit of history that the plant was designed for a number higher than that. So there's even more potential if needed beyond the 480,000, but that's good for the town moving forward. So that's where the priority for the project really became the age-related needs.
Okay, did I hear, what is our capacity is 480, what are we at now, do you know, down there?
About 65%.
Okay,
Now that's not on this past year, it's on the prior 2 or 3 years. We haven't looked at the operating data through the COVID period, but I guess we would probably expect that would be lower than it was in previous years, with the activity at the college and some of the other things being a little quieter here over the last, 12 months or so.
sure, thank you.
You all set, Bob?
I'm set.
Dick?
Just one, and this might be a question for the town manager rather than Wayne, but we have another bond payment that's sunsetting prior to this one starting, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. One sunset in 2019, and that payment was $89,000 a year. The new one's about 90, and 20 years later, it's about a $1,000 increase. And we have another like $4,500 payment that's going to sunset here in a year.
Okay, so this should basically not cause any significant increase and may even enable us to have the sewer rate remain more or less stable.
Correct.
Anything else, Dick?
That's all I have. These two guys got the rest of them already.
Zach?
Yeah, my question's already been answered.
Okay, so is mine. Yeah, questions from the public?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Number one, you say it's 480,000 capacity. What happens in the spring, with the spring thaw and our spring rains? Do you ever get close to that 480?
You could, so a little bit on the treatment plant. So that's the average day, annual average as part of your discharge permit. Beyond that, we designed the treatment plant and everything there is for a peak day flow and then also a peak hourly flow. So that's all factored in the design, and that's the way it was, back in 1998, and that's going to be the same moving forward. So for example, you could have a peak daily flow of 2 times that, and that plant is still designed to handle that flow during those wet weather periods. Does that answer your question?
You could have double the 480 in a day and handle it?
Yes, that's correct, and even higher than that on an hourly basis.
Okay, that answers one question. The second question is probably procedural, in that everybody in the town can vote for this. Now, if the people who don't use the facility, you don't use the sewer facilities, services, vote no, we don't get to do this. On the other hand, if they all vote yes, and the preponderance of the people who have the service vote no, they still get it. We have a situation where everybody votes for it, but only some people pay for it. It doesn't seem like that's a rather satisfactory approach to life in my position. I'm willing to pay for it, but I should be the one to be voting for it, not somebody who's not going to pay for it. I don't understand that. It's kind of like me saying, well, because I don't use a facility, I have the opportunity to say whether you have to become indebted because of my vote.
Do you want me to respond to that, Mike, or to somebody else?
I would like to see whether it's a legal precision that's we're talking about, or is this, it seems like this is the only thing that goes on in the town in this situation. We have a specific users are encumbered by everybody who are not users.
So the town is the owner of the facility, so by law, they're required, they're really ultimately responsible for the debt.
Okay, I understand that.
Yep, but then you have what's called an enterprise fund. So if the town had a sewer and a water system, you would have separate enterprise funds. But then basically what happens with those funds, and you're right, everybody in the town gets to vote on the project, but typically the way these are done is that the debt retirement is paid by the sewer customers in the community. That is not to say that in other places, and by statute that you can do this, is that you can put some portion of the debt retirement on the town tax base. And most places choose not to do that. They choose to really repay the debt, based on the sewer customers, those that use the facility. But it's called an enterprise fund. So all those funds, all the expenses and all the revenue generated by the sewer customers are all maintained in that specific fund. So it's not intermixed with the general fund of the town.
Well, I understand the accounting procedures that you're talking about. I'm just concerned about the fact that others who don't use the facility can say, you can't get this upgrade. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'll turn it around the other way. They can say that I have to be taxed, I'll use that term, for something that I may not want. Okay? And maybe it's a wrong comparison, but I don't use the school system, but I pay for it.
Yeah, it's a great point, and there's always a lot of discussion about this. The challenge is that everybody gets to vote. That these facilities, do have a community-wide benefit, but the cost for operations is really typically on the sewer customers. If you have somebody that lives outside the sewer service area, they have their own septic system, that they have to kind of be responsible for the cost to maintain that because they're a town resident. They have the right to vote on this project. Typically what happens, those that aren't connected, will vote yes because it's not going to cost them anything.
Right, no skin in the game.
Yep, but obviously these facilities, provide a community-wide benefit because, if you don't have municipal wastewater collection and treatment, the town is in the business of providing sewer service, but then you're not able to have the restaurants and the schools and all those kind of community functions and businesses that everybody kind of uses. But generally in Vermont, there are exceptions to that, but typically the operation of the facility, of that infrastructure for the sewer and the debt retirement is generally paid for by the sewer customers.
What would happen, what would happen if if the users who are paying for the bond, if the bond went into default, who would be responsible for it, Wayne?
The town. Ultimately, the town, Jim, because the town is the, owner, operator of the facility, and that's the reason that everybody in the town gets to vote on the project, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
So in a case like that, the town would have to go after all the taxpayers.
Correct.
Yeah, so basically what would happen is that some portion of that would go into the general fund, but, again, I don't know that I've been doing this for 35 years, and I can't think of a situation where that's happened, at least in Vermont.
Question from Dick.
Just for clarity, Wayne, it's my understanding that the town can't incur debt without getting all the voters to get permission from all the voters, regardless of where the debt is. Say we were buying a new fire truck, or we were buying, getting a wastewater treatment upgrade, or whatever it is. So, all the voters have to approve it or not.
Yeah, up to a certain amount. I mean, there's some flexibility. The cutoff is about $75,000, but yeah, you're correct. Technically, anything over that, as a town is really required to go to a public vote. There are exceptions to that. Obviously, you have a water district or maybe you have a fire district. In those cases, those guys are recognized as a separate municipality, so they do their own votes, and only those people that live within the limits of that district get to vote on their projects.
But the difference being that if they incur a debt and then they default on the debt, the taxpayers in the whole town are not responsible for that debt, correct?
Exactly, that's correct, because they're a separate fire district or water district, completely separate from the town function. That's correct.
Okay, any other questions from the public?
Yeah, I had one clarification for you.
Sure.
It's John Burke, and I was just going to give you an analogy from the years I spent as one of the directors of the Municipal Bond Bank. You can dislike the theory, Don, I get it. You can dislike the theory of somebody voting on this that does not necessarily have any skin in the game. But years ago, the legislature determined that, at least with the Municipal Bond Bank, that you had to have the bond bank collection had to be a general obligation. If you didn't do that, they would find somebody for you, but you would pay substantially more in interest than because they would not put you as part of the general bond offering of the state. It's all a risk type of situation, and because you do better on an interest level, and the state in this instance is more likely to be sure that they're going to get paid back if it's a general obligation of the town. That's why they do it the way they do it. And you can fight with it, but the idea is simply to give you the lowest rate that you can get on the loan that you're going to receive or the bond that you're going to receive.
Thank you, John. Any other questions quickly from the public?
I have one more question, please.
Sure.
Is there any consideration being given or has been given to assessing users of the facilities on a gallonage basis as opposed to on a tax basis? Or
I believe that
assessment basis?
I believe that question came up in Fire District 1. I believe they have meters which they read. I believe in Fire District 3 there are meters which are not read. So right now, unless that happened, there isn't any real way of switching it over. Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to?
Hi, this is Tom Murphy, and I appreciate the presentation, and Wayne, thank you for your efforts here. Just one quick question. You mentioned in the presentation with the installation of the ultraviolet and the air distributors that there would be efficiencies and savings. Can you quantify those efficiencies and savings in electricity and how much the plant's electricity usage would be per year?
That's hard to do. And part of it is because the plant isn't really operating, at its full capacity. We definitely know that with the new aeration system and the fine bubble diffusers that it's going to take less energy to do that, but it's not necessarily consistent from hour to hour, day to day. I guess you could look at roughly the existing electrical, cost on an annual basis and maybe take some piece of that. The other thing with the ultraviolet disinfection system, it's going to have less bulbs and a different type of bulb. So it's going to allow the shutting off of a bank, which they can't do now. They have low intensity bulbs, many, and that has to stay on all the time, 100%. So it's just a little bit difficult to quantify, but we can, feel very, very comfortable that we know that they're going to see reduced electrical usage, both from the aeration system upgrades with the SBRs and, the switch over for the ultraviolet disinfection.
And kind of touching on another item that was discussed earlier, as far as the current state of the facility, the blowers in the SBR is a good example of that. The current oxygen monitoring system is non-functional, so instead of being able to deliver the amount of air that you guys need, or that is needed at the facility, to ensure that adequate air is provided, the blowers run consistently during the cycles where it's needed. So by fixing that, by putting in that system and by installing blowers that are on variable frequency drives, you can only provide the air that's needed as it's needed, which will also result in significant energy savings in addition to what Wayne was discussing with the UV, and kind of touches on what one of the earlier questions was, with the current state of the facility, is this really necessary? That's a real tangible benefit that will be seen as a result of this project.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the follow-up. Is there any, do we have an idea of what the electrical usage is of the plant on an annual basis?
On an annual, Mike, do you have that information?
The electrical bill has been about $85,000 to $88,000. The town applied the net metering credits from a solar project, so that's reducing it right there, but it's been hovering between $85,000 $88,000 per year for the entire system, including pump stations and everything.
So would you estimate 10%, 20%, 50%, or is that unknown, Wayne?
It's a little hard because that includes everything. It includes several pump stations, so I don't know exactly what proportion of that is just the wastewater treatment plant. But I think it would be a reasonable expectation, let's say, just for discussion purposes, maybe 2/3 of that is specific to the wastewater plant. I think it's reasonable to expect, even conservatively, 5 to 10% reduction in electrical usage, and hopefully it's more than that.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to adjourn the hearing?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor, adjourning the hearing, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Wayne.
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our virtual town meeting informational center, our town meeting informational session, 2021 Town of Castleton, Vermont. I'm your moderator, Michael Finnegan. Let's call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could, I know we have a flag in the background of me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
Under God,
with liberty and justice for all.
That was okay.
Yeah, that was okay.
Thanks, everybody, for attending from your place of residence or where you may find yourself. Truly unique times and truly unique situation for a meeting for town meeting. I know a lot of folks aren't too familiar with Zoom and this, but I want to go over just some ground rules and some tips for proper etiquette so we can have the meeting move along as best we can. On your screens, you'll have a microphone and video switch. If you could keep your microphone muted and your video turned off. Please use the raise your hand or the chat feature, also known as the reactions button. If you have a question, we'll see I've got office staff with me here that can, forward the questions to me, and I will direct them to the proper member of the select board for hopefully get the answer that you want. When you're finished speaking, please remember to remute your microphone and keep your video turned off. And remember, this is an informational meeting only, and all voting will take place by Australian ballot on March 2nd, 2021. Okay, let's start the meeting, and I want to introduce our state reps. We'll start with Representative Bob Helm, and he has some time to speak. Bob, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Yeah, all right. So I'll be short. This year is not unlike others in that we always have town meeting just before everything starts to really happen, especially the first year of the biennium, because it takes, with 180 people, it takes a little bit of time to get the momentum going. But so this year, I'm gonna give you a quick briefing on what's going on in your district, which is, I think, kind of exciting. Only a handful of bills have passed the House, and none have passed both the House and the Senate, really. However, the Budget Adjustment Act is very, very close, if not there, almost today. But my position within the Appropriations Committee is to review 6 to 7 budgets within the state government, one of which is the transportation budget. Some upcoming projects which impact this area are culvert and repaving of a section of Route 4A within, I think it's 2 years from now, but it's almost at my house. I mean, no, I didn't have anything to do with it, but it's that area from where I live, if any of you know where that is, down to Sam McCormick's, where you're driving down the road and it wants to pull you off into the swamp, and they're gonna rebuild that and fix it up and repave it and stuff, which is a great thing. There's a lot of traffic on that road still, even with a new road. A new salt shed in Fairhaven in 2023, which is shared, I believe, by 90% state funding. On the horizon is the Fairhaven Town Green Lighting Project. That'll be really nice. I'm not sure, that's a couple years out too, how much money that is, but there's a lot of state money involved, and it'll do lights up and down the little sidewalks there in the park. The major project, though, that I'm really, really concerned with, because I get a lot of question on it, and I was in hopes it would have happened by now, and it hasn't, but now it's in the book. I've got what I call my white book. It shows me every project in the state of Vermont, and it's in there. When it gets in there, it's really scheduled to move forward. And that is Route 22 from West Haven, the bottom of Long Hill. Now, if you know where you turn off on the main road in West Haven to go into the West Haven Village, if you continue on 22A and go down that long hill, that is Long Hill. Right at the bottom of that, it gets very narrow. And from there, all the way to, in 3 sections, it's 3 different projects. So it's not gonna happen all at once. It'll happen over a period of a couple, 3 years. But all the way from there through the 4 corners in Orwell will be finally widened. You will have another, I think it's another foot of width on your driver's lanes each side, and you'll have a 6-foot shoulder. So it'll be very much like what's from the point of West Haven to Fairhaven, that width of road, which is much more safe, much everything. I mean, there's a lot of tractor trailers and whatnot, accidents up there. But, yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'll support that wholeheartedly, of course. And finally, the budget. 2019, the budget was the last normally processed budget that we have had. The 2021 budget, which was developed in 2020, was severely threatened by COVID-19. We are now operating within 2021 budget parameters designed because of COVID and the estimates of our income were much lower than they actually came out to be. So we actually have less money than we did in 2019, but more money than we thought we'd have last year. So we've got a little bit more money than we thought we would have this year to spend. I hope that makes some sense to you, but we still have to get the economy going and get everything moving to get back to our 2019 levels in order to carry on appropriately. But we are better off than we thought we were going to be. There's a major loss with the whole thing, and mainly in rooms and meals, restaurants, and that kind of industry, and I think you all know that. But with that, I'll let it go, and if you've got questions for me or my district mate, just give us a shout. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next, we'll give the floor to Bill Cantfield, our other state rep from this region. Bill.
Good evening. While this session will mostly be dedicated to COVID-19 recovery, the Committee on Ways and Means has addressed a few items which will affect the revenue and taxes of Vermont.
He's good.
On the subject of COVID recovery, there is unused $15 million in COVID relief fund money available, and the hope is that it will be used for more school ventilation and HVAC projects. This will result in students and teachers learning and working in a healthier indoor climate with improved ventilation systems. Now, this has been included in a new bill. It's a new COVID-19 relief bill, H315. This came out of the Appropriations Committee. It was on notice calendar today and will be up for action on the House floor tomorrow and Friday. Your House Ways and Means Committee has acted on some items to be included in a larger miscellaneous tax bill. So far, these are draft language to update town clerk recording fees. Also, language to make clear how taxes are collected for taxable meals which are delivered by a third party, now referred to as taxable meal facilitator. And how Vermont treats the transfer of property taxes, a transfer tax on properties which are transferred to siblings. H84 will expand the downtown and village centers tax credit program. This expansion will include a quarter-mile bubble around existing designated downtowns and village centers with a focus on revenue-earning property, rental housing. This will increase the amount of people eligible for the tax credits. This program is designed to improve economic development for Vermont municipalities who have these designations. And some of us in committee share the focus that more of these opportunities need to happen beyond the boundaries of Chittenden County. The monetary cap on these tax credits was increased last year to $3 million, and the proposal from the governor's budget address is now at $4 million. Education property tax. The December 1 letter from the tax commissioner projected our homestead property tax rate would increase by 9%. This translates to over 9 cents per $100 in value. Because of the unexpected revenues experienced last fall, as Bob just explained to you, we found that we could vote out of committee very early a yield bill that sets temporarily the increase at 3 cents. This, of course, is before local school budgets are passed and worked into the mix. These figures are fluid, as other factors for education revenue, such as a third of the purchase and use tax on motor vehicles, a quarter of the rooms and meals tax, lottery transfer, and other such sources, and when they all become clearer. So while this looks much better, the final education tax rate is still not set. As of February 18, Brad James from the Agency of Education told us that 103 out of 117 school districts have in statewide education spending of less than 2%. That's more good news. H81 is a bill that deals with school and employee contract negotiations. This bill will separate teacher and non-teacher employees from negotiations. One concern is that how this could evolve in particular to their health care contributions. Now, a motion to have this bill committed to the Education Committee was denied by a House floor vote. This after the Education Chair stated this was a labor bill, not an education bill. After more deliberation, the bill passed by a vote of 96 to 33. One bill which has started in the Senate would allow legal online gambling in Vermont. It is estimated that 180,000 Vermonters do this now. With an estimate of $2 to $3 million per year in revenue, this bill proposes to allow Vermonters to play online in the safety of their homes legally. Additionally, not included is the tax Vermonters would pay to the state on their winnings. As Bob mentioned, this is a very busy week as legislative action picks up before the town meeting break. The committees get ready for crossover. That's usually a week after we return from town meeting break. Crossover is when House bills have been addressed before the whole House and then sent over to the Senate. Senate bills likewise get the same timeline as we near the halfway point of your citizen legislature session. Thus, the latest changes or amendments to bills may happen between now and when we finally wrap up our proceedings for town meeting on Friday, the 26th. Thank you. My contact information is by phone, 802-265-4428. My email address is wcanfield@leg.state.vt.us, or the Sergeant at Arms office has a toll-free number, 1-800-322-5616, where they will get a message to me and I will get back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill Canfield, and thank both you and Representative Helm for the work you folks do for us up in Montpelier. Okay, at this point, I'd like to introduce members of our select board for the town of Castleton.
Mike,
This is in alphabetical order. We'll start with Richard Coombs, Zach Holsworth, Jim Leamy, Joe Mark, and Bob Spalding. Okay, just before we get started, I'd like to take this moment to thank the town office staff for putting this together and injecting some modern technology into some of us that are technologically challenged, me included. Okay. All right, at this time, we're going to get started with ballot items. I'll go through each article, and keep in mind that voting is happening on March 2nd, 2021 at the fire station. The polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Okay, at this point, we'll start with each article and remind everybody in the meeting, if you have a question, use your raise hand or the reactions button or your chat feature on the Zoom display. Without further ado, let's begin with the articles. I'll start with Article 1. I know this is a group one. To elect officers for the following terms: a town clerk for 3 years, a first constable for 2 years, a treasurer for 3 years, a library trustee for 5 years, a town moderator for 1 year, 2 select board members for 1 year, and 1 select board member for 3 years. Do we have any questions or discussion on Article 1? Hearing none, let's move on. Article 2. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $26,542 for legislating? Prior year fee for Article 2 was $26,079. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to Article 3. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $1,965 for ordinances and proceedings? Appropriations for the prior year was the same at $1,965. Okay. Article 4. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $182,428 for managing municipalities? Prior year appropriation was $177,245. Hearing no discussion?
Mike?
Article 5.
Mike?
Yes, I'm sorry.
I have a question, and I apologize, I feel like you maybe have explained this in the past. I'm just curious, what is meant by managing municipalities? Is that money that we pay to the town manager and the clerk? Is that?
I will, thank you for your question. What was your name, dear?
It's Sue DeCarellis, Mike.
Sue DeCarellis, hi, Sue. I just, if you have a question in your live chat, like we would do in the open forum, please state your name, okay? But that's okay, Sue, you're okay. I'm gonna defer this to Selectman Lamy, if you could help Sue DeCarellis with this question, please.
Yes, Sue, to answer your question, it is the salary for the town manager, which is based on a contract, and also a portion of the salary and benefits for the administrative assistant. That's primarily what it is.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Sue.
Your question. Okay. With no other questions, we'll go to Article 5. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $8,804 for conducting elections? The prior year appropriation was $11,162. Any questions for Article 5? Hearing none, we'll go to Article 6, and I'll try to slow things down. I'll try to fly through this and make sure, if you want to ask a question, you have a chance to. Article 6, shall the town appropriate the sum of $48,159 for collection, custody, and disbursement of funds? Appropriation prior year was $46,746. Any questions on Article 6? Sue DeCarellis. Sue, do you have a question? Please unmute your microphone.
To Mac. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Again, I was curious, the distinction that is made between the collection in Article 6,
yes.
I thought it might be taxes. So what is the collection and custody and disbursement? What is involved in that?
It involves the,
Thanks for your question, and I'll defer that, I'll hand that to Jim Lamy as well. Jim.
thank you, Mike. It includes a 2.5% increase in salary for the treasurer and assistant treasurer, and 50% of the tax collection administrative assistant salary, plus a 15 cents an hour increase for the tax collector and administrative assistant.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome, Sue.
Thanks for your question. Okay. Any other questions on Article 6? Hearing none, let's move on to Article 7. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $104,833 for accounting? Prior year appropriation was $97,048. Any questions regarding Article 7? Hearing none, we'll move to Article 8. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $12,000 for auditing? This is a similar appropriation to a year ago at $12,000. Any questions regarding Article 8? Very good. Hearing none. Article 9. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $34,434 for tax listing? The prior year appropriation was $39,332. Any questions regarding Article 9? Hearing and seeing none, we move to Article 10. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $42,596 for tax collecting? The prior year appropriation was $41,573. Any questions on Article 10? Hearing and seeing none, we're going to move on to Article 11. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $80,878 for document recording issue? The prior year appropriation was $78,394. Any questions regarding Article 11? Hearing none. Article 12. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $20,000 for legal services? The prior year appropriation was $25,000. Any questions on Article 12? Hearing none, we'll move on to Article 13. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $41,738 for municipal planning and zoning? The prior year appropriation was $41,836. Any questions regarding Article 13? Hearing none, we'll move to Article 14. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $7,490 for community development and economic revitalization? The prior year appropriation was $5,996. Any questions regarding Article 14? Very good. Article 15. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $192,850 for general government buildings? The prior year appropriation was $194,950. Any questions on Article 15? Hearing none. Article 16. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $23,439 for general government equipment? The prior year appropriation was $23,439. Do you have any questions regarding Article 16? Hearing none, we'll move to Article 17. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $526,025 for police department? The prior year appropriation was $523,038. Any questions regarding Article 17?
I have a question.
Please do. State your name, please. Oh, Sue DeCarolis?
Sue DeCarolis. On Article 7, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, dear.
Thank you. On Article 17, with the budget for the police department, I had noticed in the report on page 41 that our police were doing property watch for residential. And I was wondering if this property watch is when people go away, and let's say they go to Florida for the winter, do we have police actually checking on people's property while they're away?
I'll defer that question to our board member, Richard Coombs.
Yes, Sue, that's exactly what it means. They, if you're gone for a week or a month and you let our police chief know, he'll have his officers drive by your house on a occasional basis, not, every day or not several times in a day, but occasionally they'll drive by and just make sure that there's no broken windows and things like that. They don't normally get out and walk around the property, but they'll either drive by slow or pull in the driveway, depending on where the property is.
I have to say that that honestly surprises me. I think that I've always felt that as a property owner, it is your responsibility when you go away to have somebody looking in on your property. So I just was really surprised by that. And most of the people, let's say my family and friends, maybe would not be thinking I'm going to call the police to check on my home. So I was just surprised.
Well, hopefully you're pleasantly surprised, Sue, because there are some people in town that really don't have. They're here alone. And when they leave, there's no one, they don't know anyone well enough to watch their property or ask them to do that. I mean, we always have a friend come over and watch our pets for us when we leave. But there's some people they don't either feel comfortable or they don't have, or that isn't an option for them. So our police department does that, and I don't believe it's a significant cost. They just drive by.
They just drive by.
Or they'll pull in the driveway and look around, and then back out again.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions regarding Article 17? Okay, hearing none. Article 18, shall the town appropriate the sum of $36,218 for emergency medical services? This includes Regional Ambulance Services Incorporated and Regional Ambulance Service Castleton First Responders. The prior year appropriation was similar at $36,218. Any questions, comments about Article 18? Excellent. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to Article 19. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $167,144 for the fire department? The prior year appropriation was $165,147. Any questions, comments regarding Article 19? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to Article 20. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $8,750 for emergency management? The prior year appropriation was $9,000. Any questions on Article 20? Hearing none. Article 21. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $1,155,379 for the highway department? The prior year appropriation was $1,153,191. Any questions regarding the budget for the highway department? Article 21. Seeing none, we'll move on to, I'm sorry.
Fearless.
Sue's fearless again. Come on, Sue, this is good. You're asking questions. I'm glad.
I talked with Mike about this a couple months ago. We live up on the Drake Road, and I was wondering, as part of the highway department service, doesn't the town own so many feet, like maybe 6 feet or 10 feet from the edge of the road over? And what I was wondering is how the town would address trees on that that property area that might be falling into the road. Is that part of the highway department?
Let's see what our select board member has for this question. That would be Joe Marr. Joe, do you care to chime in on this?
Well, I believe that the highway department, in conjunction with the tree warden, probably would address such an issue.
So Joe, the town owns or is responsible for so many feet from the center of the line over?
Yes, and depending on the classification of the road, the right-of-way varies, but it's measured from the center of the road. I think it's often 25 feet from the center of the road in many of our roads.
I guess one of the problems with that, and I'm just wondering about future, is when you're looking at town roads, that they're really considering, the safety of some of the conditions of the trees. And I'm sure there are other roads other than the Drake Road. And in talking with Mike, and he was helpful, he said that sometimes the cost, they have to get a service, like Rutland Tree Service, to handle those trees. So, what would a citizen do? Just make a request that the trees along that road, some of them are looked at?
Exactly. I think,
Okay.
and speaking with Mike as your first contact with the town would be
Sure.
the best option for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Any other questions on Article 21? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none, let's move to Article 22. Shall the town appropriate the sum of oh, I'm sorry, we have a question?
Yeah, Mike, it's John Burke.
Will you, sir?
I had one response a little bit to Sue's question. Joe's right. Generally, a town road is 25 feet each side of the center line, and unless there's a different taking that was done originally. There's a statute that basically says that the town owns 25 feet from the center of every Class 3 highway, unless it's otherwise set out, which not many are. And it's generally considered that it's the trunk of the tree that is operative. There's a lot of trees that are actually owned individually, but the branches may hang over, and that's just another issue. The other thing I wanted to mention with regard to the highway budget is I think that all of us as a town, I think most of us are aware, or at least some of us are, but our longtime highway foreman, Paul Egan, retired this year, and I would like to take an opportunity right here to express my gratitude for a lot of hard work for a lot of years that Paul put in as our highway foreman.
Very nice. Yes, sir. Agreed. Thank you, John. And as former town moderator, feel free to inject any really bad lawyer jokes if you want. Okay, moving on. Article 22. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $3,400 for town lands? The prior year appropriation was also $3,400. Any questions regarding Article 22? Hearing and seeing none, let's move to Article 23. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $5,000 for historical cemeteries? This as well was similar to prior year appropriation at $5,000. Any questions regarding Article 23? Hearing none. Article 24. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $29,000 for the Hillside Cemetery? The prior year appropriation was $29,000 as well. Any questions regarding Article 24? Hearing none, let's move to Article 25. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $1,443 for health regulating and inspecting? The prior year appropriation was $1,446. Any questions regarding Article 25? Hearing none, seeing none. Article 26. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $5,469 for animal control? The prior year appropriation was $5,170. Any questions regarding Article 26? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll move on to Article 27. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $29,803 for constables? The prior year appropriation was $37,239. Any questions regarding Article 27? Hearing none, seeing none. Let's move on to Article 28. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $345,277 for the transfer station? The prior year appropriation was $346,430. Any questions regarding Article 28?
Yes, I have one,
Hearing none,
Mr.
seeing
Finnegan? Mr. Finnegan?
none, move to Article
We are
29.
unmuted.
Mr. Finnegan?
Yes, sir.
I have a question on that article. I just,
Article 28.
yes, I'd just like to,
This is Bob Spalding.
it is Bob Spalding.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. You have the floor.
I would just like to,
I'm not seeing you on a really small screen. That's why I can't tell right away. Go ahead, Bob.
okay. I'd just like to ask the select board or the town manager what we are doing this current year that we're in so that the transfer station doesn't lose $17,000 as it did last year. It cost the non-user $17,000 last year. I just want to know, I want the public to know out there what we changed or what we are proposing. What are we doing to make up that difference? I don't know if Mike wants to answer that or whoever's in charge of.
I can, I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I know that we increased the permit fees, or, no, we increased the bag fees. And I don't remember what we increased the fees to. We increased the per tonnage rate, for the scale. And I actually think that we decreased the permit fee, you know, the sticker for your car. We decreased those. And Mike Jones and I sat down and we figured that would get us, that would bridge that $17,000 gap.
Mr. Moderator, I have a comment too.
Yes, sir. Richard Coon, you have the floor.
When we went through the numbers for this recently as a couple of days ago, at the close of December, I did not review it again after the January books closed, but at the close of December, which was the 6-month mark, revenues for the transfer station were 14.5% over for what was projected to be brought in, which means that if we were on for the projected track, that the transfer station would pay for itself. So there may actually, unless something catastrophic happens, the transfer station may actually come out in the black this year instead of in the red.
Mr. Coombs, well, I don't know if you should, this is Bob Spalding again, Mike. I just wanted to know where the expenses were at. You said the revenues are up 14.5%. Do you know where the revenues or the expenses were at? Are they up?
I can tell you.
I do not, and also that's not necessarily accurate because some of the expenses were incurred were the construction stuff that was done in the second half of the summer. So, and also the pole barn was just done, so you'd have to, some of that money's already in the expenses. So you may have expended 60 or 70% of the budget already.
Okay.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, it's one of those things where you have to look at the whole big picture, and I don't have those numbers in front of me.
I do. I can tell you.
Exactly. Good.
I can tell you that as of January 31st, the transfer station budget is at 66.55% of the annual budget at 7 months in.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to add that the Select Board is committed to having the transfer station be revenue neutral.
Yes.
And I think with the manager's leadership and his recommendations regarding fees, we are right close to that if we haven't already hit it. But the other issue is that this is a moving target in the sense that what we used to be able to expect we would get for recyclables, for example, is changing constantly. So this is always going to need to be fine-tuned, but certainly our very serious goal is to have the transfer station pay for itself, and I think it will, if it doesn't already.
Yes. And I've noticed that I can speak for most everybody in town that uses the transfer station that in the past year or two, we've seen significant improvements with where the containers are held, the pole barn for the other containers, and just the entryway. I mean, I think in general, in the last couple of years, the transfer station looks much better than it has in the past. And I think that's a testament to, effort put into that. Bob Spalding, does that answer your question, sir?
It does, thank you. I just wanted to make sure everybody heard that out there.
Yep, and I'm sure we'll be back to this when we get to Article 47. Does anyone else have any other discussion, questions regarding Article 28? Okay, hearing none, seeing none, let's move
I have
to
a
Article
quick
20.
one.
Oh, go ahead.
Due to careless.
Oh, that's okay. See it.
I was wondering, and maybe I should know this, but what is done with the composting? Do they handle composting there at the transfer station? Or is the compost that we drop off delivered somewhere else?
That is picked up, and I believe it's Casella, Mike, is that correct?
Correct.
Picking it up now? Yeah, Casella's picking it up now.
Okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Is she talking about compost or is she talking about food scraps?
Compost.
Any other questions on
It's
Article
compost.
28? I'm sure we'll
There is a
revisit
difference.
this later in the evening. Okay, Article 29. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $113,797 for recreation? The prior year appropriation was $108,827. Any questions regarding Article 29? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Article 30. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $3,300 for Memorial Day decorations and the 4th of July parade? The prior year appropriation was $9,650. Any questions regarding Article 30?
Mr. Finnegan?
Okay, hearing none, seeing none.
Mr. Finnegan?
Article 31.
Hello?
Go ahead.
I'm just curious, why is there such a big difference? Why was it budgeted last year $9,000 and this year is only $3,000?
Because last year we bought the
Yeah.
fireworks, and this year, and we never used them, so we still have those fireworks due to us, so there's
Okay.
no need to spend that money again.
Okay,
Yeah, this is,
and that's the whole reason?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? You're welcome, sir. Any other questions? Okay, moving on to Article 31. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $116,000 for library administration? The prior year appropriation was $111,500. Any questions regarding Article 31? Okay. Hearing none, seeing none. Article 32. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $1,500 for prevention and control of forest fires? The prior year appropriation was as well $1,500. Any questions regarding Article 32? Hearing none and seeing none. Article 33. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $10,161 for a tree warden? So the prior year appropriation at $9,749. Any questions, comments regarding Article 33? Hearing none, seeing none. Article 34. Shall the town appropriate the sum of $43,000 for the Rutland County tax? The prior year appropriation was $40,000. Any questions regarding Article 34? Hearing none and seeing none. Next, we'll move into the social services appropriations, and we had originally were going to bulk these together, but I've decided to still go through them individually. Okay. With Article 35, shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $3,500 for the support of ARC Rutland area, determining that the program serves the residents of the town with advocacy, resources, and community for citizens with developmental disabilities and their families. Any questions on Article 35? Hearing none, seeing none. Article 36. Shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $3,600 for administrative support of Castleton Cares Incorporated, determining that the program serves the residents of the town with emergency assistance to local people in need? Any questions on Article 36? Hearing none, seeing none, let's move to Article 37.
Mine,
I'm sorry, hey, Sue?
Sue to Carol. Would it be appropriate to be able to say a couple words about Castleton Cares at this time, or
Please do.
would that be later?
Please do. No, you have the floor, dear.
Okay, well, I'm new to Castleton Cares. I was involved several years ago, but I'm kind of new in volunteering. And I did read in the report with the police that, you know, there have been volunteers through the police department. But I do want to say how incredibly impressed I am with really what's going on at Castleton Cares. I've gotten an opportunity to hear that they've been serving at least 80 families. I hate to say anything because I'm so new, but I know they have a very active board, and just recently they have made a connection with the Vermont Food Bank. And I just, you know, hope that people understand that not only food, which can be delivered to them, you know, they don't have to come in at a certain hour. Also fuel assistance, gas cards, maybe to get to unemployment. So I really think Castleton Cares does a lot, and certainly with what the police department has been doing and the volunteers have been working with them. Also, just to mention that Castleton Cares has also reached out to college students, and they actually have even cooking-ware that they can loan to people. So I can't do a very good job in speaking of how much they do, but it's very active. So I think that's great. I think we're lucky.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Sue. And I just mimic that, you know, add to that statement that I know nationwide, you know, in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, that the need for these types of services has only increased, and I'm sure it's that way here as well as nationwide. So, you know,
and I might just say one little thing is,
go ahead.
I think that any one of us, you know, sometimes, you know, many people were just one paycheck away from really having a tough time. So, you know, that's there for people to reach out. People who are able to take advantage of it. There's going to be a time when they're going to pay it forward. So people should not be shy in calling 468-2444 if they need any kind of help.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you, Sue. Okay. Let's move on to Article 37. Shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $25,000 for the support of Castleton Community Seniors Incorporated, determining that the program serves residents of the town with the operation of the Castleton Community Center, also known as the old homestead? Any questions, concerns with Article 37?
Mike?
Is Mrs. Riley here?
Joanne Riley, right here.
You have the floor, Marion.
Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to bring folks up to date on what's happening at the community center during this time, this special time. This time last year, we received a notice from the Department of Health and Department of Aging and Independent Living saying that we could no longer have any face-to-face activities with our members, and we had to close. During the summer and fall, it was relaxed a little bit so that we could meet outdoors. And fortunately, we had our van shelter with, thanks to Bud Taggart and a whole group of volunteers from the community and donations from the various service organizations. Our van shelter served as the spot for us to have outdoor exercise classes and meetings following the safety protocols. And we were able to do that all summer. And actually into the fall, we had a heater put out there so that we could have our classes outdoors. But then finally, it got to the point where we could have no classes at all, outdoors or indoors. Our normal annual ridership, for instance, with our van service is about 3,300 rides, but we had to stop those rides altogether. We were able to resume July 1st, and we're continuing now to take people for doctor's appointments, physical therapy, food shopping, that type of thing. We were serving about 1,100 senior meals in our dining room before the pandemic. We had to stop serving those meals in March, but fortunately we had Meals on Wheels, the home delivery program, and they were delivering over 4,800 home delivered meals in our area. Rutland County actually saw a 30% increase in Meals on Wheels during the pandemic. In addition, we've added a monthly dinner to go. Maybe some of you have seen the pictures in the paper, where we had 50 to 75 people stopping by the center to pick up a free full course dinner to take home. And our wellness program, of course, is one of our most important programs, and that was a real problem when we had to stop having our classes. But we were able to operate during the pandemic by using Zoom, YouTube, and PEG TV for virtual classes, and some of those included Tai Chi for arthritis, Tai Chi for diabetes, bone builders, and a Matter Balance Falls Prevention program. We still have our commitment to lifelong learning, which is exhibited in our Great Courses. Great Courses is an educational series which we're offering now through Zoom every Monday and Wednesday afternoon. As I've said in years past, and probably most of you know, the support for the community center comes from our special event fundraisers, and unfortunately this year 7 of our 9 fundraisers had to be discontinued because of the pandemic. But we also receive funds from donations, program fees, grants, membership dues, and appropriations from Castleton, Fairhaven, and Hubbardton. So we want to say thank you for all the support that the town has provided in the past and ask you for your continued support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Riley. Any other questions regarding Article 37? Hearing none. Article 38. Shall the town of Castleton vote to raise, appropriate, and expand the sum of $3,500 for the support of the partial funding of Marble Valley Regional Transit Districts, the bus, public transit service to the residents of the town? Any questions on Article 38? Hearing none. Article 39. Shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $6,720 to support the Rutland area visiting nurses and hospice? $550 to support Rutland area hospice and $6,170 to support the Rutland area visiting nurses and community health services. Any questions on Article 39? Hearing none. Article 40. Shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $4,088 for the support of Rutland Mental Health Services, determining that the program serves residents of the town with counseling, substance abuse, and emergency services? Any questions on Article 40? Seeing none. Article 41. Shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $900 for the support of RSVP and the Volunteer Center, determining that the program serves residents of the town with volunteering opportunities and community services? Any questions on Article 41? Hearing none. Article 42. Shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $2,000 for the support of Southwestern Vermont Council on Aging, determining that the program serves residents of the town with elder services? Any questions on Article 42? Moving on to Article 43. Shall the town deem necessary and appropriate $1,000 for the support of Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, determining that the program serves residents of the town with services to enable the blind and visually impaired to achieve and maintain independence? Any questions regarding Article 43? Hearing none, seeing none. Article 44. shall the town deem necessary to appropriate $2,725 for the support of Brock Community Action in southwestern Vermont, determining that the program serves residents of the town with weatherization, emergency food, and small business development. Any questions on Article 44? Hearing none and seeing none, we'll move on. There are 3 additional local items on the ballot this year. We move next to Article 45. Shall the town, pursuant to Vermont State Statute 3840, and beginning this current year, exempt in whole the non-income producing property owned by Lee Lodge Number 30, a non-profit organization, from taxation for a period not exceeding 5 years. Any questions, comments, concerns on Article 45? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Article 46. Shall the town exempt all non-income producing real and personal property owned by the Castleton community seniors from taxation for a period of 5 years pursuant to 32 Vermont State 3832, paragraph 7? Any questions, comments, or concerns about Article 46? Okay, and moving on to tonight's main event.
Mike,
Article 47.
Mike?
Shall the town of Castleton...
Mr. Moderator.
Oh.
Could I make a comment? The only comment that I would make is that the board, the budgets submitted by the select board is up a total of $10,552, or 0.3%. The social items, social services, of course, are not included in the budget, and the voters have the opportunity to vote for or against them. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Once again, to Article 47. And knowing that this is still a touchy subject within the town, I know we'll have some comment and questions regarding this. I would preface this article discussion with the fact that let's try to be civil and try to voice all your questions towards me, the moderator. Okay? We're all in the same town. Let's try to be nice to each other here. Article 47. Shall the town of Castleton withdraw from Rutland County Solid Waste District and take the necessary steps to join the Solid Waste Alliance communities? Article 47. I'm sure we'll have some questions. Who do we have? And I'm looking at the Zoom screen next to me to see who's up. I don't see anybody raising their hands. Okay. Nobody's in chat. Nobody's in chat. Well. Okay. Well, I'm pleasantly surprised. Hearing none, seeing none.
Mike.
That concludes our vote. Hello.
Good night, Mike. Bob Spalding.
Bob Spalding, you have the floor, sir.
I just want to state I'm the one. I'm not Mr. Town Manager. It's recognized me as just a citizen, and that's fine. I'm the one. I'm a taxpayer, select board member, former waste hauler of 35 plus years. I'm the one that keeps bringing this to the town.
Yes.
Just want it for the record, it hasn't been voted down 3 years in a row by the voters. 1 year it was changed by Mr. Coombs to state that the select board would decide whether to withdraw or to remain in the Rutland County Solid Waste District. Another year, it was a tied vote. The state recognizes a tied vote as a loss. Last year, it got voted down by 90 votes. You can have the theories or whatever you want. I contributed to misled voters and uninformed voters, and I'll take the responsibility for the uninformed voters. Nuts and bolts of it. We stay on the banner of the Rutland County Solid Waste District. The taxpayers, residents, and citizens in Castleton University pay on average somewhere between $38,000 and $43,000 in district surcharges. That is a fact. I guess we all agree, sitting on this board, it amounts to around $38,000. There's been enough banner on it, so I don't want to get into too many details. But under the Rutland, like I said, under the Rutland County Solid Waste District banner, we will continue to pay $38,000 in Rutland County Solid Waste District surcharges. If we were to withdraw from the Rutland County Solid Waste District and join the Solid Waste Alliance communities, we would pay a set rate of $24,622. The big misconception is just the transfer station users pay that. That is not correct. It gets divided up amongst all the taxpayers in town, that $24,622. So right off the bat, we agree that we have savings of $14,000 to the taxpayers of the town of Castleton. Like I said, there's been enough banter on this. I don't want to carry on for too long. If we withdraw from the Rutland County Solid Waste District, the Castleton University's hauler has already stated on record that if he doesn't have to pay the district surcharge, he will not charge his customers the district surcharge. And that, plain and simple, he is the major hauler in the town. I don't have to name any names or who the company is. Everybody knows. That will save college $3,500 each and every year if this town withdraws from the Rutland County Solid Waste District. That's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it.
I have a question.
Ask away. Who's this? Sue?
Nancy
Sue
Trudeau.
Oh, Nancy Trudeau, you have the floor, dear.
Thank you. What other local towns have joined this same group, Bob?
There's 10 towns that belong to SWAC, the Solid Waste Alliance Communities. There's 10 towns. Right off the top of my head, I can't name it. Fairhaven belongs to them. Benson belongs to them. I think Middletown Springs belongs to them. I should have had that list in front of me, but there is 10 towns in the local area that belong to the Solid Waste Alliance Communities.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Nancy. Yes, sir.
I know Bob has put a lot of work into this, and he probably has been frustrated at times when the other members of the Select Board haven't necessarily agreed with his point of view. But I think the question, as we've looked at it, four of us, looks different. And it is that the SWAC proposal would actually cost $9,426 more, for which we would get fewer services. The difference really hinges on Bob's use of the word "we." He uses that in a very broad and inclusive way to include citizens who contract for private hauling services as well as Castleton University. Speaking just for myself, I don't think we should ask taxpayers to underwrite the tipping fees of Castleton University, nor do I think we should ask taxpayers who choose not to go to private haulers to underwrite the tipping fees of the private haulers. If you remove those, if we don't pay for those on behalf of those citizens, the taxpayers pay only $18,546 for its membership in the Rutland County Solid Waste District, as compared to what would be $27,972, which we would have to pay to SWAC. And for that, we would get fewer household hazardous waste service days. Presently, we get 3 in Castleton. It is certain that we would get no more than 1 in Castleton in the future, and there would be a second, probably in Fairhaven or Rutland Town. So, in addition, there are report writing services that are provided free by Rutland County Solid Waste District presently, for which we would be charged if we moved to SWAC. For that reason, I have urged my neighbors and friends to vote against Article 47.
Can I respond to that?
Thank you, Joe. I know this is a confusing issue because to compare Rutland County Solid Waste, and correct me if I'm wrong, to compare Rutland County Solid Waste versus SWAC, it's not apples to apples because they charge the town in a different way. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. That's correct.
That is correct. And so it's my understanding, and I'm just putting this out there for clarity, try to get some clarity out there, that under Rutland County Solid Waste, if you hire a private hauler, a Casella, or don't mean to plug them, but a private trash hauler, you pay more under Rutland County Solid Waste. But you'd pay less if you use the dump yourself. And it's my understanding that if we went to SWAC, it would cost people that use the dump themselves more. And I've spoken with trash haulers. I'm thinking that the trash haulers would get a better deal under SWAC. And will they pass those savings on to town residents? I've heard different stories of that in the past, and I don't know. I'm not sure. And what I am saying, is that accurate, Bob?
Not completely, Mike, no. Another local hauler, and I'll use his name, is Sean Sequin. He has a different rate for non-district customers versus district customers. Because when he picks up that trash at your house, he has to collect that surcharge from you and then pass it on to the Rutland County Solid Waste District. Follow me? It makes no difference if you take your trash to the Castleton transfer station. The Castleton transfer station has to collect that district surcharge from you and pass it on to the Rutland County Solid Waste District. The problem with all this is not all the taxpayers in town use the Castleton transfer station. If they did, they would still pay the district surcharge. They would just pay it to a different entity. They would pay it to the Castleton transfer station. Castleton would have to pass that on to the Rutland County Solid Waste District. The numbers prove it. Right now, the taxpayers, residents, and citizens, and Castleton University, and you can exclude them if you choose to, pay somewhere between $38,000 and $43,000 in district surcharges. Now, no disrespect to Mr. Mark. I'm not really sure where he gets the $18,000 from. That's all that's paid at the Castleton transfer station. Again, Castleton's transfer station is only about half the town's trash. So we're paying $18,000 for half the town's trash. Now, it's not realistic that for the businesses in town to take their trash up to the Castleton transfer station, and I don't even think it's illegal, or that it is legal. I mean, Hubbard Forge can roll in there with a 40-yard container and expect Castleton to take that 40-yard container from them. It really penalizes the businesses in town. They pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars extra on their trash bill because this town chooses to belong to the Rutland County Solid Waste District. And it's a trash tax. The more trash you produce, the more tax you're going to pay, the more surcharge you're going to pay. It's based on volume. Whereas the SWAC, it's a set amount, it's flat. It doesn't matter if you produce 3 times as much trash, or you have a private hauler take it, or you take it up to the transfer station. It's the flat amount of $24,343. And not just the transfer station users pay that. I guess that's the big sticking point here. My colleagues here believe that the transfer station would be responsible, the users of the transfer station would be responsible for the $24,343, and that is not the way it works. The $24,343 would be shared townwide by the taxpayers. That's the big difference.
But can I respond to that, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you were correct in saying that 24,000 and change, although I think Joe mentioned 27, so that's to be disputed. But let's just say 25 to pick a number in the middle. That $25,000 will be paid for by the taxpayers. Right now, the taxpayers are only paying 18,000 and change. So
That's not correct, Zach.
That is correct. The taxpayers, the people who we are responsible to first, are paying 18,000 and change to pay the Rutland County Solid Waste District in fees.
Your Castleton transfer station users are the ones that pay the $18,000 through their tipping fees. It's not the taxpayers, Zach. Hubbard and Forge does not pay the $18,000 part of the Castleton transfer station.
Okay,
I'm just trying to understand you and I'm telling you, for 35 years, I've dealt with the Rutland County Solid Waste District, and I've dealt with the Solid Waste Alliance community.
So
I know how it works, Zach.
let me rephrase. 18,000 and change is going from the town of Castleton,
From the transfer station.
from the transfer station to the Rutland County Solid Waste District.
Yes, you're correct.
If we were to switch to SWAC, that number is more than 18,000 and change.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Yes.
You,
I mean, clearly.
excuse me,
clearly we have
Mr. Moderator,
policy
can I make a
numbers,
point of order?
with-
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
point of order. You asked citizens to address you as the moderator, not each other.
Yes.
I would urge you to
Yes,
enforce
thank
that.
you. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator.
No. So at this time, like I said, this is a very confusing issue. We obviously have conflicting numbers. I don't know how better to make this clearer, because this is very cloudy, because both solid waste districts charge the town in a different way. So it's really, really difficult to compare one versus the other. The services are different, the fees are different, depending on whether you use the transfer station on your own or you hire a private hauler to haul your trash, okay? So I was hoping to get some clarity on this issue, but I don't think we've accomplished it very well.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I agree with everything you said up until the point you said that the fees are different from the transfer station versus a private hauler. I would ask you, where do you get your information that the fees are different? The Rutland County Solid Waste District surcharge gets paid through your tipping fees, Mr. Moderator. It doesn't matter who you pay your tipping fees to. That surcharge is included in your tipping fees. I guess that's another big sticking point. Somehow my colleagues believe that it's different, it's charged differently. It's not charged differently. The district surcharge is included in your tipping fees. It makes no difference who you're handing your tipping fees to. That's a fact.
Joe Mark, could you help clarify this, the differences in how Rutland County Solid Waste versus how SWAC charges the town and charges the trash haulers? Can you try to shed some light on this?
It's not that complicated. Yes, I can. We are charged $19.97 a ton by Rutland County Solid Waste District for what Bob calls the tipping fees. That's based on the amount of disposable trash we deliver to them. That's it. Last year, that added up to $23,182 because we have an understanding with Hubbardton that they can use our transfer station. They pay 20% of that, we pay 80%, which was $18,546. Rutland County Solid Waste, SWAC, charges the town $4.51 per capita, which adds up to $21,274. In addition, for the access to 2 household hazardous waste days a year, they charge us 71 cents per capita for another $6,698. That adds up to $27,972 as compared to $18,546. The reason, I think, from Mr. Spaulding's point of view, for paying the additional $9,426 is to allow the private haulers and the Castleton University to deliver their trash for free because we have contracted with SWAC as a town.
We have a question regarding this. I'm not sure who it's from. Thomas Kearns. And this question is, I'm trying to read it. What happens if all the trash goes to the transfer station? Does it already all go to the transfer station, or does it depend on how it gets there?
You want me to answer that, Mr. Moderator?
And I'll put that question to Mr. Spalding.
Now, what was the question again, one more time?
The question was from Tom Kearns, and it was, what happens if all the trash goes to the transfer station? I think he may be confused. I believe all the trash in town goes to the transfer station, and the difference is how does it get there? Either a private trash hauler or people take it on their own.
No,
Is that accurate?
no, that is not accurate. I think Mr. Kearns is getting at if all the trash goes to the Castleton transfer station, your district surcharges would double. Right now, within the town produces between 2,100 and 2,200 tons. The transfer station accounts for 1,100 to 1,200 tons of that. The private hauler picks up the other 950 to 1,000 tons. If the private haulers were allowed to go into the transfer station, your district surcharges would double. The town would have to, no, the surcharge would be paid through your tipping fees. The private hauler would pay his tipping fees, and you'd have to deduct that surcharge from that and send it to the, it's all based on tonnage.
Mr. Moderator?
So these tipping fees charged by Rutland County Solid Waste, these are charged to private haulers and not to those that use the transfer station on their own.
It's not correct? No, it's not tipping fees, Mr. Moderator, it's surcharges. Rutland County Solid Waste is because of surcharge. It's just like a gas tax. It doesn't make a difference.
You told me it was a tipping fee. You just called it a tipping fee.
The surcharge is in the tipping fee.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
It's not complicated.
The other response, may I speak?
Yes, sir. Joe Mark, you have the floor.
The other response that I would make to Tom's question is that the revenue of the transfer station would also increase, presumably doubling, to offset the additional tipping fee surcharges that would have to be paid. As I said earlier, the Select Board is committed to a revenue-neutral plan for the financing of the transfer station. So it should be a wash.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Okay.
Mr. Moderator?
Any other questions?
We have a comment from our Select Board Chair. Okay, Mike? Okay?
Well, Jim Laney, you have the floor, sir.
I have in front of me the report that was developed by the present town manager entitled Services Direct Cost Analysis. It was dated February 8th and updated on February 16th. And that's where the information is coming from. Now, Mike Jones is not the first town manager to run the numbers. Two previous town managers also ran the numbers and came up with the same conclusion, that Castleton should remain in the Rutland County Solid Waste District. Mike had the honor not only of doing it once, he had to do it twice. So they all came to the same conclusion, that it was in the best interests of the town of Castleton to remain in the Rutland County Solid Waste District. That's it, Mike.
Any other questions regarding Article 47?
Mr. Moderator? This is not,
Yes, sir.
it's not directly in regards to Article 47. I would just like to ask our Rutland County Solid Waste District rep why there wasn't a Rutland County Solid Waste District report in our town reports this year.
Was there normally one?
There's
Did I
normally
recall?
one? Yes?
Oh.
Is it
That
the
is a
social
good
services
question.
section is what I'm being told?
No, I asked the question of, Mr. Moderator, I asked the question of our district, Rutland County Solid Waste District rep, Mr. Holsworth. I wanted to know why there wasn't a report from the Rutland County Solid Waste District in our town report like there normally is.
And I don't know the answer to that question, Bob.
Okay? Okay?
I'm being told by our assistant of the town manager that is in the report in the social services section of the town report. That's what I'm being told.
A report from the Rutland County Solid Waste District? I believe you're incorrect, Mr. Moderator.
What page?
Yeah, do you have a copy of the town report? Do you have a town report here? Hold on. Stand by.
I don't mean to cause confusion.
Should we have the board poll for this? Should we just let each member of the board say what they think on this?
I don't remember seeing it.
No, should
Page
Did the board members sign that?
35 is the transfer station.
let, just go around. He's in favor of it, he's not. What about, you're not, maybe, but you didn't say that.
I
I haven't
see.
said a word. Zach hasn't said much. Should we?
All of the
know,
entities
or
in the
one,
social
yeah, I pretty
services
much-
section.
I pretty much
There's a separate
explained it right there.
printed article, that is included in the town report. And Karen's looking for it right now. Uh-oh. Not on that one. Uh-oh.
We did get one. I think we got after the deadline to turn in the report, so we did get some.
Look at that. It's not there. And I can't tell you why either. I don't know.
It was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be in there, but it's not there.
Okay.
No, we got one.
I have another question, Mr. Moderator. Can we clarify the misconception that, and this was brought to me by numerous people, they all think that we take our trash from the Castleton transfer station to the Rutland County Solid Waste District, and that is 100% untrue. Our trash goes to a waste-to-energy facility that produces enough power to generate 40,000 homes. The Rutland County Solid Waste District does not take our trash or haul our trash. I just want to make that clear to everybody out there. I also want to make it clear that the Rutland County Solid Waste District, like they've claimed, they do not own the Gleason Road Transfer Station, and they do not own the Material Recovery Facility as of this time. They have stated in several different papers and medias that they own the Gleason Road Transfer Station and they own the Material Recovery Facility, and that is 100% incorrect.
Thank you. We have another question, submitted from Lisa Ladd, and her question is, if I use a private trash hauler, am I paying fees twice for my trash to be taken away?
No, she's not. Once again, whether you use a private hauler to have your trash taken away or you take your trash to the Castleton transfer station, you are paying that district surcharge. The district surcharge is included in your tipping fees.
And the tipping fee is what the private hauler charges her. Is that correct?
And the Castleton transfer station has tipping fees. That's what you pay when you go up to the Castleton transfer station. You pay a tipping fee to get rid of your trash.
Yes, and that's either using the scale or using the stickers per bag plus the cost of a dump permit, correct?
Correct.
All right, any other questions regarding Article 47? Okay. Hearing none, seeing, that concludes our informational meeting. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Mr. Moderator?
Remember to vote on March the 2nd.
Mr. Moderator?
2021. Polls open at
Mr.
7
Moderator?
and close at...
Mr. Moderator?
8 a.m.
Mr. Moderator?
7.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to be recognized, thank you. Thank you. Since this is his last meeting, unless there's an enormous write-in campaign underway, I would like to acknowledge the service of Zach Holdsworth and thank him for it. Zach, you have conscientiously, respectfully, and with good humor served this board admirably, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate that, Joe. Thank you.
Yep, no, I agree.
Thank you, Zach.
Thank you. your service.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mark, for acknowledging Zach.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. With that being said, that concludes our meeting. Thanks, everyone, for attending, and be safe out there. Thank you all.